This video is for all my dear friends in Romania and in the Romanian diaspora here in America. I will be referring to the upcoming elections in Romania. Now I realize that it is not the place of any foreigner to tell, uh, much less an American, to tell Romanians how to vote. Nevertheless, I would like to recount some wonderful experiences and remarkable people I met in my trips to Romania. And this is especially important to me now, since one of those remarkable friends is running for the president of Romania. The occasion for these trips was to promote books I had written or edited. The first was a collection of essays edited with my friend Ovidiu Hurduzeu, entitled Economic Freedom, The Renaissance of Deep Romania. And remember that term, deep Romania. And the second was an account of distributism toward a truly free market, a distributist perspective. On these trips, I saw many wonderful things and made many interesting friends. People like, people like Calin Georgescu, a truly great mind. Dan Puric, truly an omul frumos. Alexandru Ciulan, my Romanian publisher. Sorin Kucherai, a philosopher. Irina Bazon, who did me the immense favor of translating my book into Romanian. And and Alan Voicu and many others, too many to mention here. But for the moment, it is not about these wise and wonderful people I wish to talk about, but rather a more humble figure, Florica Gorvei, of the village of Oensea, and I'm pronouncing this all wrong, north of Iași and hard by the Prut River. Florica is the mother-in-law of Alexandru's son Andy, and the matriarch of a vineyard, one that dated back at least to the reign of King Carol I, from whom the village received the right to own its own land. Ovidiu, Alexandru, Andy, and I were on a search for this deep Romania, and in Florica and her farm, we found it. Florica was 87 years old at the time, but still worked the grape harvest. We toured her farm and its thatch roofed buildings and verdant fields. And from these fields, she served us a lunch I will never forget. It started with Polinka, of course, Polinka from her own farm. Then came deviled eggs and salami as an appetizer. These were quickly followed by Romanian borscht, filled with meatballs, pork, and potatoes, topped with sour cream and served with bread. It was absolutely fantastic. And of course, the farm's own wine. Then came grilled chicken from the farm's own coops. After that came a dessert of fritters, crepes, and thick Turkish coffee. And finally, there was grilled catfish, freshly caught from the river Prut. I do not think that I have ever eaten so much at a single meal in my whole life. Florica did not join us for the meal. Rather, she sat in the corner and listened to a conversation that took place mainly in English. But her face beamed with pride. She was showing us the abundance of her farm and what the good life really meant. On her deeply lined face was traced the history of Romania in the 20th and 21st centuries. She had seen the fall of the kingdom, the rise of the peasant parties, and their fall under the coming of the German Übermensch. These Übermensch and their thousand-year Reich were quickly replaced uh, to the new Soviet man from Russia, who is today replaced by the cosmopolitan capitalist. another abstract creation ripe for extinction and as definitive as the others. But of all these invaders, none of them, not even the communists, did as much damage to village life as did the new globalists. With their own internationale sung to the tune of a cash register with accompaniment by the unholy trinity of the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, and the European Union. Farms like Florica's are efficient and abundant and should be prosperous, but they are not. The post-communist government had to break up the collectives and return the land, but they withheld the equipment. Indeed, they closed the tractor factory. They were never very enthusiastic about Romania's farmers, labeling the rural economy bizarre capitalism. Well, bizarre capitalism sounds pretty good to me, but to the new rulers, like the old, it was not what they wanted. They saw Romania's future in industrialization. And yet, they sold off the industry to foreigners in the name of privatization. They did this on the advice of their American and EU advisors. And in one bizarre example of privatization, they sold the Romanian telephone company uh, to the Greek government. It never occurred to them to sell it to the Romanian telecom workers. And the new rulers had no use for the deep Romania of Florica. But they went even further. The communists pitted the secret police against the workers, but the capitalists went them one better. They pitted the workers against the workers. For example, Dacia Motors, which is a French company with a factory in Moveni, opened a factory in Morocco, which will take production away from Moveni. Um, Jerome Olive, CEO of Automobile Dacia at the time, admitted that the purpose was to pit the Romanian workers against the Moroccans, and whoever could produce the cheapest cars would get the most orders. Let me suggest that this is a more efficient way of quashing the workers and far cheaper than hiring policemen. Let me also suggest that there was no good economic reason to pit the farms against industry. In fact, the opposite is the case. The deep Romania of Florica must be the foundation of an industrialized Romania. Romania can be and should be self-sufficient in food. In fact, it should be the breadbasket of Eastern Europe. With some modest investments in the land, graveling the roads, a farmer's bank with low interest loans, improvements to the distribution and processing systems, and some help in forming marketing cooperatives to the EU, and so forth, deep Romania becomes a fact rather than an artifact. In my understanding of Romanian history, there is always an effort by the conquerors to make Romania into something which it isn't. The Romans, the Moguls, the Turks, the Russians, and now the West want to make the country into a simulacrum of their own countries, which required suppressing whatever was best in Romanian culture and history. Florica has passed since our wonderful lunch, but I hope her Romania, her legacy, prospers and grows. Which brings me to Calin Georgescu and his project to form a prosperous Romania. In my conversations with him, I am convinced that Calin understands this deep Romania, understands the real strength of the country. He understands that the cities and the countryside must grow together and should not be played off against each other. He understands Romania as Romanian. and not just a cheap copy of the Western system. On the contrary, this deep Romania has much to offer both the West and the East, standing as it does on the borders of both. So, while I will not presume to tell any Romanian how to vote, I can urge my Romanian friends and all who listen to this to take the trouble to listen to him, to take the time to listen to Calin, and to consider what country they wish to forge. I thank you for your very kind attention.